Are short-term rentals like Airbnbs and VRBO homes risky in Idaho? Or are they a great way to make money through property investment? I'm Laura Triratnobus with John L. Scott Real Estate Boise, and I'm a property investor myself, as well as a native Idahoan. A lot of people are jumping into the short-term rental market here in the Treasure Valley, especially in Boise. But are they making a big mistake? Are they contributing to Idaho's affordable housing crisis? And should government be doing more to regulate short-term rentals in Idaho? So let's look at some of the risks and benefits, or are they a great way to make money through property investment? Let's get something out of the way first, namely, what kind of property makes a good short-term rental? Well, virtually any home can be used as a short-term rental, especially if the home is in one of the major cities here in the Treasure Valley, or if it's in a touristy area, for example, near a lake or a ski resort like Sun Valley or Coeur d'Alene. Investors find that 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes kind of hit the sweet spot between being too small and too large for the average short-term rental guest. It goes without saying that the home needs to be in top shape if you're going to garner good reviews and repeat guests. Vrbo and Airbnb both use algorithms that look at your track record, and if you don't have good reviews, if you have 1-star reviews, you're not going to get guests. Of course, the home needs to be properly furnished with enough comfortable, real beds, not just futons on the floor, for however many guests it's advertised for. So when buying a home to use as a short-term rental, you do need to make sure you've left yourself enough money to do the necessary repairs and to furnish the home properly. Make sure you can afford regular maintenance too. So what are some scenarios that could lead you to buy a home in Idaho and use it as a short-term rental? Well, let's say you're thinking of buying a home in the Boise metropolitan area that you want to live in yourself eventually, but you're not ready to move to Idaho just yet. Perhaps you already live in Boise and you're ready to move to a larger home. If you can afford 2 mortgages, you might decide to keep the smaller home and use it as a money-making engine to pay the mortgage on your primary home. Maybe you have no intention of ever moving to Idaho, but you want to invest in Idaho real estate because you see Idaho as a safe bet financially. Possibly you have kids or grandkids who are planning to attend college in the Treasure Valley. So you're thinking of buying a small home they can live in when they're students, and then they can save money on rent, and then you want to start making money off the home until the kids are ready to use it. So I can think of lots of scenarios that can lead to an investor buying a home and turning it into a short or long-term rental, whether that investor is a native-born Idahoan like me, or someone from another state who's never even set foot in Idaho. If you're with me so far, you may be wondering, well, why not just turn the home into a regular long-term rental unit with a tenant on an annual lease? Well, that's a great question, and one that I think investors really should think long and hard about before deciding what to do with their property. In fact, even before they buy the property. The answer for most people is simple. They can make more money with a short-term rental than they can with a tenant on an annual lease. And for many investors, that's all they actually think about. They don't take other things into consideration. They look at total rents from an annual lease tenant versus total fees from an Airbnb that's rented out most of the time. But surely it can't be that simple. If it was that simple, no one, including me, would be renting out their homes to long-term tenants. Now, a little spoiler alert. All of my own investment properties are rented on an annual basis. I don't have any short-term rental properties. That doesn't mean I haven't been tempted though. So let's look at some of the pros and cons of short-term rentals and my own reasons for keeping my own properties with long-term tenants. First, as Idaho has grown in population, Boise has seen a steady increase in tourism, attracting visitors with its outdoor activities, cultural events, business opportunities. This growing tourist influx means a steady demand for short-term rentals, especially during peak seasons. Some of those high times may include holidays, ski season, Boise State University football, graduation season, among many other possibilities. Next, as I mentioned, compared to traditional long-term rentals, short terms can yield a higher rental income. By capitalizing on nightly rates, particularly during high demand periods, owners can see substantial returns. Also, short-term rentals offer flexibility that traditional rentals do not. The owner may be able to use the property for personal vacation during off-peak times, so it can be a personal retreat. But keep in mind, you have to know the tax code. The tax code is going to dictate how often you can use that property for your personal enjoyment and still treat it as a business, and it is not as much as you think it is. I cannot emphasize this enough. Get a good accountant who understands investment properties and who understands both federal and Idaho tax law. By the way, if this information is helpful, please give the video a thumbs up, or better yet, subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Keep in mind that there are various tax deductions available for both long-term and short-term rental properties, and these can help reduce your taxable income. But again, make sure you're doing everything within the law. A good CPA is going to be your very best friend when it comes to property investment. So, if short-term rentals have the potential to make you a boatload of money, well, why aren't all investors jumping on them? Well, let's consider the thorny problem of our affordable housing shortage in the Boise area. Every home that is turned into a short-term rental is a home that a potential homeowner can't buy, and it's also a home that someone who actually lives and works in the Treasure Valley can't rent. A huge influx of short-term rentals has caused an affordable housing shortage for locals all over the world, not just here in the US or in Idaho in particular, all over the world. In fact, just recently, local residents in Barcelona, Spain, and several other European cities started protests over being unable to live in their own cities because so many housing units have been turned into short-term rentals for tourists. State and especially local governments have been seeking solutions to this problem through regulation and legislation. Boise, like many other cities, has been tightening regulations on short-term rentals. So navigating your local laws, zoning regulations, homeowner association rules, these things are complex and they may limit your ability to operate an Airbnb for the home that you bought for that purpose. Another problem using your property as a short-term rental is that the initial cost of purchasing a property, furnishing it to meet Airbnb standards, and then marketing the property can be significant. Additionally, the ongoing costs of maintenance, cleaning, management, and marketing can reduce your profitability. The popularity of short-term rentals means increased competition in some neighborhoods. The market has become saturated, making it harder to maintain high occupancy rates and competitive pricing. I do know that most of the Boise short-term rental owners that I've talked to are still happy with their overall returns, but that their profits have moved downwards a little bit over the last year or two due to approaching market saturation. So if you're going to have a successful short-term rental, you do need to keep a sharp eye on your numbers to ensure that you're still making the kind of money you need to pay your mortgage, your management company, and your other overhead. I do think eventually we're going to reach the point where the market in Boise is thoroughly saturated, and then we'll start seeing many of these units change to traditional long-term rentals. And I think that will be a good thing overall for Idaho, to be honest. Our affordable housing shortage is making it very hard on buyers, especially first-timers. The final downside of owning a short-term rental is that your income will be less predictable than it would be with a long-term rental. Factors like seasonality, economic downturns, the pandemic, changes in travel trends, these can all significantly impact your revenue, making it less stable than a traditional long-term rental. If having a stable, predictable income is very important to you, you may want to rethink using your property as a short-term rental. Owning a short-term rental, in my opinion, is best for experienced investors who have experience in the property investment market. I personally would not advocate that anyone use all of their investment properties as short-term rentals. I would recommend a mix of property types, both short and long-term, for a balance of stable income versus high income. If you're not from the area where you're seeking to buy, you have got to get yourself a good realtor, someone who's local, someone who's honest, who knows the area well. It's not going to do you any good to buy a property in a part of town that won't appeal to visitors. And I definitely recommend using a professional management company for short or long-term rentals. You have to be aware of avoiding violations of the federal fair housing law. You need someone who will always be on the ground here in Boise to help with emergencies. For example, to unlock doors when the renter loses their key or when the toilet explodes, and to make sure that the property is absolutely spotless for the next renter. You have to understand the eviction process. You need the proper paperwork when it comes to tax time. The list of reasons for using a professional management company goes on and on. So remember, if your short-term rental reviews on Airbnb or Vrbo aren't good, you will quickly lose any chance of making your investment a success. Professional management is the best way to ensure that those reviews are all 5-star, especially if you don't live here. I have plenty of experience with investors and investment properties, 1031 exchanges, property management companies, so reach out with your questions about Idaho residential and real estate investing. Thanks for watching. Bye.